Right. So, what do you want to talk about when it comes to pronunciation? What has been your experience?
Well, I started teaching very young, as you know, around 18, I think. Yeah, but I was a teacher's assistant. But before, there was always this kind of correct way, quote unquote, correct pronunciation. And
Okay.
there was the wrong pronunciation without taking in consideration people's origins, right? So over the years, I have definitely noticed that it's not about the correct pronunciation. It's more about just how you enunciate. And also, I've seen over the years like students have want that American accent that they're exposed to over and over again through social media, videos and stuff like that. So they think when they have an accent, Brazilian or otherwise, they think they are speaking incorrectly. That the only way that they're going to be perfect in English is to have a perfect American accent with a perfect uh, pronunciation of every single letter, phonetic form, etc. Which is, of course, over the years, I have noticed that's absolutely not true. Your accent is never the issue. That's one of the things I've always told my students since I realized this. Like, your accent is not the issue here. Um, accents have there are accents all over the world, and I just give examples. Like in the United States, not everybody is going to speak like I do or like you see in the movies.
Yeah.
You have accents, a million different accents. So the correct way to say something is just to enunciate. So I would teach more enunciation rather than worrying about getting rid of your accent. But of course, there's always an option to get rid of the accent. But I encourage more to enunciate and learn where the sound is coming from rather than trying to completely get rid of your, uh, in this case, Brazilian students, Brazilian origin. Uh,
Right. For people who don't know what enunciate is, it just means to pronounce things clearly, right? To express
mhm,
things in detailed or definite way, right? Um, that's what enunciation pretty much is, right? It doesn't focus so much on perfection as much as it focuses on clear pronunciation.
exactly. More on clarity than it does anything else. So some of course, uh, one of the most expensive, no, excuse me, difficult words to pronounce or sounds is the th, right? The th, and you have the voiced and the unvoiced pronunciation of that th. So basically, that's where you would train your vocal cords and know where your sound is coming from. So, one of the ways that I find very simple to help them train their tongue, so to speak, train the muscle to pronouncing the TH,
Mm-hmm.
is they grab their index finger, and place it right under their nose, touching their lips, not pressing, just lightly touching,
Kind of like
and
if
their
you're saying
tongue,
shh, like asking people,
yes,
like
exactly,
motioning for someone to be quiet.
exactly.
Okay.
Motioning someone to be quiet. And then you're going to place the tip of your tongue and you're going to touch your index finger. So like th,
Very nice. Very cool
make
technique.
making sure that you're not blocking air from passing through because that's very important for the th pronunciation. And
For sure.
there you have the voiceless pronunciation. Tank, think, sh. So that's the voiceless one where you don't have any vibration. So then I teach my students, now it's a little bit more difficult. Like you got to level up. Okay, you know the easy one, now it's the a little bit more difficult. The voiced one, which has a small difference, you will feel a vibration in your throat. So kind of go like zzz, like a bee or a mosquito. Zzz. And you put your hand on your throat, just place it there and feel the zzz
Mm-hmm.
sound. So once that,
We're
now
gonna
you
making a Z
identify how
sound, the sound of a Z.
Exactly. Make it
Okay.
sound like a bee. So I tell them, make a sound like a bee or a mosquito, and they will do that bzz sound. So like zzz, identify it in
Excellent.
your throat. Identify
Nice.
it in your throat. Feel it. Okay, so now that you know how it feels, I do that like 3 times just to make sure that they don't just go like they're very nervous sometimes. So they just want to get to the next step, but they want to get to the next step.
Hmm.
I'm like, calm down. Let's go slow. Feel it. You feel the vibration. Now I want you to do that same sound. Try to do that same sound with the TH. So you're going to place your finger, same place, tongue, same place, and then do the v, v. In this case, not so much air is coming out, it's more of the vibration sound.
Right.
And then you have the two different forms. It's a little
Right.
bit difficult at the beginning, but with a few tongue twisters and a few more exercises, because it does ele cansa, right? Like it gets really tired after if you're not used to making that sound. So I don't force them to do it too much. So like just 10 minutes and then stop, and then
Hmm.
the rest of the lesson is something else because it
Hmm.
does get your vocal cords quite tired. So those are the two things that I do when it comes to the TH sound because the impulse that they have is that they associate it to the closest thing they have in Portuguese, which is the F. So it's like thanks, thanks. Oh no, it's not an F, it's a F. Okay, so it's thanks. So they associate either with an S or with an F. So the that sound for them can be a little tricky. Um, so those are the two tricks that I have for any voiced sound that they have, like the Z sometimes, or the sound of an S at the end, size, right? If there's a Z, you have a little vibration. So it trains them for other pronunciations as well and has them identify. Another thing that's very important that I have seen as well to help with pronunciation, they can have the pronunciation correct.
Hmm.
However, if they don't have the intonation, right, the stress of the signal of the syllable in the word. So, for example, let's say the word beautiful. Beautiful. We say beautiful, but sometimes they have beautiful. So if you put the emphasis or stress in the wrong syllable, it can come off a little bit incorrect. It's not something that bothers me in particular, but if I give them that tip of stress and the correct syllable, mostly because when you are reading a very long word or complicated word, it helps to find the correct pronunciation, like expensive or interactive, entrepreneur, even more advanced words as well. It helps them identify the rhythm of the word and it gets them understanding how to pronounce it a little bit better.
Right.
So
Sorry, continue.
go ahead, go ahead. No, no, how what?
How important do you think it is for students to learn pronunciation in real life versus in this very technical, very specific, kind of isolated approach of the sounds? Like, what have been the results that you've seen with people doing it more isolated and technical versus
Hmm.
learning by shadowing?
So, my results, in my experience here, I learning how to identify these isolated little things only helps them until a certain point, right? It helps them understand where my focus is more to understand where the sound is coming from so
Right.
that when they hear it from some other type of accent, they can understand it as well. And maybe in the future, if they come across a word that is they've never heard before, that has a specific pronunciation to it, they can get the rhythm of that word and maybe look it up, know how to pronounce it, learn how to pronounce it by themselves. Now, when it comes to shadowing, I do think it's a lot more natural in the sense that they just copy you. You just copy me, just like kids. Kids will literally pronounce the same way. If it's something that catches their attention, they'll pronounce it the exact same way. So it is more natural. This more technical thing is only necessary, I would say, if they're having a really hard time with that pronunciation.
Right. That makes
Then you
sense.
then you go into that little technical, okay, where is it coming from? How do you pronounce it? What parts of your mouth are you using? Is it aspirated? Is there air coming out of your mouth? Is there no air coming out of your mouth? Is it more nasal? Is it just your lips? Is it more your tongue? Where's your tongue? In the middle of your mouth, in the back of your mouth, in the front of your mouth? This is all specifically for more exercises to get rid of accents more than pronunciation. So I would say that shadowing is a lot more useful if someone wants to just go ahead and learn without having the whole technical terms of do this, do that, and now have a result. Um, but really, the technical part is just, especially with the TH. I usually only use it with the TH because that's the hardest that I've seen in my experience that Brazilians have. That's the hardest pronunciation. So I just teach them the finger, place your finger on your lips and do that exercise like like twice a week, once a
As
day,
often as possible.
as often as possible. Yes, so that just that they can have the muscle memory of it. Once they do, if I see that they are really concentrated in trying to get it correct, right? So like there's a th word coming and they're like, thank you, teacher. Like they're actually thinking about how to place their tongue. Then I start building up their confidence. Then I go into, okay, so now that you know, I want you to just repeat after me. And then I go into the tongue twisters and then make it fun. That way they forget about the position of their tongue and they go more in just like the beat. Put a little beatboxing on. Go and make a little do the tongue twister in the th sound just with the beatboxing. That way you make it fun. They forget that they where they're all the technical stuff that's in their head and then they say it more naturally. And then at the
Okay.
end, they're also impressed with us. They're like, oh my God, I did it. It's like, yes, you did it because you learned it. And it also helps boost their confidence as well in the language that they're learning.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. Um, you talk about tongue twisters. What are tongue twisters for people who don't know?
Oh, so tongue twisters are uh, like a bunch of, not a bunch, excuse me, they are phrases that have a lot of the same pronunciations. So, for example, I'm going to give you an example of Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So, this sentence is a tongue twister. It focuses on a specific sound. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter. So, I thought a thought. The thought I thought wasn't the thought I thought. So that's a tongue twister. It's a phrase or a long story that focuses on a specific pronunciation or intonation.
Excellent. 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 And how do you make pronunciation fun, though? Like using tongue twisters is one way, fantastic. And what other ways do you use to make the pronunciation practice more fun and engaging?
One thing I really like is I use friends like Ross. He has these super high intonations when he's like super angry or nervous. So he goes high and then he also goes really loud. And that of course, the students get a little shy when teach that I tell them, look, we're going to see this sentence here and I want you to say it exactly like he did. He's like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Okay. So I want you to say that in this tone. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. And then if they're more advanced, I tell them, so what are you understanding by just his tone? Like, oh, he's super uncomfortable. He is not okay. He is absolutely going ape shit. He's just trying to seem very calm. So I also have like a conversation of intonation, like, what do you understand? Is this sarcasm? Is this hiding something? Or is this for just a question? Because sometimes your intonation goes up or goes down in a question. So having a conversation about specific scenes in series or in just listening mostly also makes it a little bit funner for them to understand, comprehend speech in general.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. And tell me about your background, where you started. Like we already started off talking about what you do and what you
Hmm.
work with when it comes to pronunciation with the students. But what do you? Tell me about you. Like, how did you start teaching? Where did you start? When did you get involved in it? And what made you stay?
Well, I got involved in teaching when I was 18 years old, formally 18 years old. I was a teacher's assistant, and I was started off assisting teachers for kids. That's really where the idea of not having to do stuff in a specific order, right? Grammar, vocabulary. It was more just like a having kids learn English in a more practical way, right? In a natural way. You speak to them in English with structure and they learn it, right? Because their brains are still learning how to speak the language and it's easier for them to absorb. It's a whole thing. But that's where it started. And I was there for about 2 years
You were
until I
where?
moved.
Sorry.
I was in a school, uh, in the school for kids for about 3 years as a teacher's assistant. Learned a lot about teaching English specifically. That's where it started. And it was very fun. It was very easy to apply to almost anything, really, because when it comes to kids or even teenagers, it is to make it more fun and more natural is way better than to have them just sit down, repeat, write this,
Yeah, it's almost
use this grammar
impossible to
structure.
actually do that. You can't do that with kids.
Exactly. It's incredibly frustrating for them, and it's frustrating for the teacher to have to teach it. And it's just very mechanical. It's not helpful for anyone. Adults
Well, it's
do that
adults, right?
more.
It's made for
Right.
adults. For adults understand
Yeah.
the idea of like sitting down,
Mm-hmm.
focusing, doing that. Children, you have to work for their focus. You have to
Exactly.
really have their attention, capture their attention. You can't force them to
Yeah.
focus. So
No,
yeah,
absolutely not. And also, not just capture their attention, know how to work with their attention span.
yeah,
So, let's say
so
you have an
true.
hour of class, but a kid usually just pays attention to like maybe 20 minutes to something they're very, very interested in.
Yeah,
So, you have to keep
max.
it moving. You have to keep it moving. And teenagers are mostly there because they are forced by their parents. The parents say,
Yeah,
when you ask them, why do you want to learn English? Like, oh, my parents put me here. Or like, oh, I want to do it for my future. I'm like, okay, let's start there. So if they're less interested, that's also some of the experience I've had after the English school with kids. I moved on to being a teacher, working in different types of schools. Teenagers, I will confess, I had the hardest time adapting to
really.
because
Why?
because because I never understood teenagers. I was like, "Why are you doing this? This doesn't make sense. Why would you do that on purpose? Like,
Wait, can you give
how
like an
come?"
example of like what you didn't
Well,
understand?
for example, okay, so for example, when not students, sorry, teenagers are a little impulsive, right? They're learning stuff. They're a little more daring.
Right?
And
Yeah,
me as a teenager, I was never impulsive. I was never daring because I knew the consequences of like getting hurt. Like, now I don't want to get physically injured. So I was a little too rational as a
you're a little bit
teenager.
more conservative, let's say.
Yes, yes, yes. Conservative is a better word for it. So when teenagers would, I don't know, jump off a wall and try to land on their feet, I would be like, why would you do that? Or they would say, "Oh, let's grab our skateboards and let's go just run down this hill." And I'm like, "No, thank you. There are cars at the end of this street, and this has no brakes." So, so that kind of stuff, I guess, growing up that way, I guess, made me understand them less. So I had to really try to understand the perspective of the student. One thing I could relate to them is being forced to do something you don't want to do. Like, okay, you don't want to be here. It's like,
How you
well,
feel?
not really. Yeah, exactly. So one student was like giving me one answer, one word answers. So like, how are you today? Good. How was your weekend? Fine. So one time I asked them, so, do you like learning English? He's like, I don't know. Okay, if you had the choice, if you had the choice, would you learn English? He's like, no, I'd rather be out with my friends playing football. I'm like,
Honestly,
yeah,
yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. And so, but what are your interests? Tell me about you. So removed the focus away from the class and I spent a good, let's say, 20 minutes trying to just get him talk about himself, what he likes, what are his interests, and of course being honest with him. Look, I understand that I'm not going to be able to teach you anymore right now. So I want to get to know you a little bit better. Uh, why are you in English class? Oh, because my parents put me here. Like, okay, why did they do that? Oh, because they want me to think about my future. Okay, but what do you think about your future? Like, do you think about your future? No, really. Okay. Then I switch the conversation into what they like. What kind of hobbies do they have? Which is usually, unfortunately, for a lot of students, a lot of teenagers, it's school and football and sleep and video games.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really hard to, once they get into that routine, unless they're like very active in what they do and they have a very bubbly personality, um, it's very hard to get them interested in something that they themselves are just there to learn and then leave.
Right.
So I try to incorporate stuff that they're interested to. Video games. I don't like video games. I don't get it. I mean, I guess it's fun. I played video games when I was very, very young, and I only played Prince of Persia on Windows 98. So, or Crash Bandicoot. So those are pretty fun. But other than that, I stopped. So I start telling them they already use English in their routine. Look at all the vocabulary you use in a game, all of the acronyms. What do they mean? And so I start getting them interested in that, trying to get their interests, focus on their interests, and of course, have to do the lesson with and try to make it fun. But it was a struggle. It was a struggle with it was it was about a year trying to get used to teenagers and their rhythm and their understanding them and all of that, especially the ones that didn't want to be there. When they're more open to it, it's easier, I guess. The ones that joke around a lot, really easy to get into interested in English. But the ones that are just quiet, that are just there, don't want to be there, give you one answer questions. However, they give you one answer, one word answers, but their, let's say, homework is impeccable.
Right.
So once I know that their homework is impeccable, they know this stuff. They're learning. Are they interested in producing it in class? No. So I need to be able to pull their interest out of them in a different way that's not very mechanical in a classroom with a book, sitting down, learning the grammar. So you have to adapt it a little bit at least, um, which is not always possible when you're working in a school, like an English school. You have very little leeway, so you have to make it, I guess, a different type of fun.
Okay. And that's my
Um,
question. Like, what are some examples of ways that you make students interested in learning and
so
practicing, I
student,
guess?
Yes, yes. Practicing, I guess I would say, especially with teenagers, I would say they all already practice because of all of the interactions they already have with English. Video games, and I also, what else do I do is they love football. So what do? I get the vocabulary football. I get a commentary of if they're more advanced, this is what I do. I get a commentary from a football game in Brazil, and then I play, like, let's say 1 minute of this commentary of them saying, this person passed it over here, fulano bateu para cá, goal, right? So I would say, I would like you to tell me in English, what did this man say? And they're like, oh, and then they start talking to me, they start talking to each other. If it's a one-on-one, it's easier. But if it have more students, let's say three teenagers, then they start talking to each other, talking to me, and I tell them you can use an English dictionary because in the school you weren't allowed to use translator, right? So like I gave them an English dictionary, and I said you can look up whatever word you want in this English dictionary. I gave them sites to look it up if they don't know it, or you can use me as your translator, whichever you think is easier. And so they come up and they start working together how to translate the words. And then I get a video, another video, another class. I get the same thing, but I get like a video, like on Netflix, a clip on Netflix of an English series, let's say Friends, and then I dub it in Portuguese.
You dub it.
I dub it. No, 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 not I, but the dub, right? In on Netflix, you can put from English to Portuguese, the language.
Okay.
And then I asked them, uh, okay. And they asked me, why am I watching something in Portuguese? Like, because I want you to tell me what he said in English. And it can be like a joke. If they're more advanced, a joke. Translate a joke. Make this joke. See if you can make it funny. What do you understand by this joke? So those are some things I do with the students, specifically teenagers. Now, adults depends. I'd have to feel them out a little bit because some are like very business, so they want very technical, very business terms. So they already know what their objective is. What I can do to make it fun, if they are incredibly tired from work, if they are just overwhelmed with at the end of the day, their kids are in the back, their wife or spouse is in the back trying to get them to sleep, something. It's the end of the day and they're exhausted. One thing that I found is music. Music is something light and it is something that people like in general. And I translate like a sertanejo song or a forró song, which is I don't necessarily like those types of music, but have you heard the lyrics? They are pretty funny, or they're incredibly like juicy in the sense that they're full of gossip, right? There's always something happening. Someone broke someone's heart. Someone cheated on someone else, right?
Yes.
Or someone's just like brokenhearted and alone and wants somebody to love them. But those
Yeah.
I don't really use. But those, so I asked them, let me know if you understand which lyrics this is. And this is of course after getting to know the students, what type of music do they listen to, what artists do they like. So I get the song that they love and I translate it, just a little small piece.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, so this is a song from this group. Okay. This is a sertanejo song. I would like you to tell me what song is this? And then they kind of read it out and I play like the soundtrack without the words and I sing the song in the rhythm.
You do it
And
sertanejo
then
song?
I do a sertanejo song. I
Okay.
did that once. I did that once. The student loved it.
Oh, but you only did it
But
once. So, like, do you normally do
mhm.
this? What do you normally do?
I normally I normally adapt to what the student needs. So in this case, I have this student who is an IT tech. She she has been in IT since the 70s. Since the 60s.
Wow.
No, yeah, since the 70s, yeah. no, sorry, until since the late 80s. So she started in the military, in the Navy, so she knows all of that background until now. She still works in this area. So what I like to do for her is get the most outrageous claims for tech, right? For specifically like programming or AI. Usually like these very big ads like now you can use AI for everything, right? But they're pretty hyperbole, like they're very exaggerated. And I tell her, watch this and we'll discuss it after. I usually send them videos before so that we're not watching them in class. We're usually more focusing on talking. And
Yeah.
so I write down the notes of what I think. Me, I don't know anything. I don't know much about IT. So I put down as somebody who has not a lot of experience, what did I find interesting about this video? What do I have questions about? What am I what do I think is an exaggeration? What looks like a lie? What seems like uh, what seems to be true? And maybe, I don't know, this looks like a good idea. I might try this. And then I basically ask her about her experience. Okay, so I have a question about this, and this. Could you tell me, is this true? And then she will tell me if it isn't or not. And sometimes, even if it's something I know is not true, I will ask her anyway, because then she gets to like just laugh at this ridiculous claim and be like, of course not, right? And it's easier for her to actually explain why. So that's what I usually do with this specific student because I've had her for a very long time and it gets her talking. And what I do as the teacher, I just grab a few words here and there that she maybe mispronounces or kind of switches Portuguese and English, and then I correct those. But other than that, that's what I do with this student. I grab their interest and then I have them explain something to me.
Okay.
Having them explain something to me is I find one of the best ways to get them talking, especially for even if they're like pre-intermediate students,
Uh huh.
they will talk.
All right.
And and of course, let's say there's maybe any new vocabulary that they don't know I can help with, or if there's like a term in IT that I have never heard before, I will ask her and then she will tell me, or she's like, you know what, I don't know either, so we both look it up together and
Okay.
we both learn.
Okay. About that, like, do you, when it comes to not knowing, I feel
Mm,
students, they feel that they should know a lot of things.
mm-hmm,
They have this culture of like, I should know, so I don't ask, I don't look for, I should be speaking everything from inside out. How do you
mm-hmm.
approach this idea of should know, like, culture?
So in that case, one of the things I used to do, well, I still do now with my individual students, but in class, I would come in and say, okay, in this classroom, there is no such thing as a stupid question. And then I clarify. Now, if you have a question about, let's say we're talking about verb to be, and you have a question about how was my weekend, let's not focus away from the class. But in this classroom, when it comes to pronunciation, uh, word association, any type of thing, there is no such thing as an idiot question. And you are not allowed to make fun of people who don't know. If you don't know, that is, um, you're not, well, people do feel stupid, but I avoid saying don't feel stupid because you don't know, because that's not really helpful. So I say, you are here to learn. So if you don't know, ask me. It takes a little while, but I learned how to identify when people just don't understand. They just won't talk. They just won't talk. They'll stay completely quiet. The ones that understand will nod and will be like, okay, cool. And then they'll be writing something down. But the ones that don't often get like an expression on their face, like, okay, or they just won't talk. So in that case, I pay attention to their like nonverbal cues.
Uh-huh.
And then, if it's a group class, I will later take those students aside and ask them in person, ask them to stay just a little bit longer in class if I have time, and ask them, okay, so what do you not understand here? I see you had a little bit of difficulty maybe understanding the context of this expression, or maybe how to use this form of grammar. This is a safe space. You can tell me. So without all of the people there, they feel a little bit more comfortable saying what they have issues with. And then I reiterate every single class or every so often, ask me. I am here to help you. If you don't ask me, I also don't know how to help you. So ask, reiterate, just ask. And I don't make like a huge deal about it. It's just like ask me. Oh my God, you have to ask me. If I get if I get irritated because they don't ask, they're not going to ask me.
Right.
So I just reiterate, I'm here to help. So use that chance to help, to get help. You don't understand? It's not the end of the world. How are you supposed to know?
Yeah.
You cannot automatically know. Like if I was going to learn Russian, I'm not going to automatically know what hi means. The only thing I know how to say is yes and no. That's it.
How do you
So
say yes and no in Russian?
you say niet for no and da for yes.
Amazing. Excellent, Forage. Amazing. Amazing. Awesome. Awesome. I think for today, that's pretty good. Like we talked about a lot of things. We talked about pronunciation versus accent. We talked about how to practice the TH sound. You gave some really good tips and techniques on how to
Mm,
practice that, how to improve that. We talked about also stress and emphasis, right, of the correct
mm,
syllable and words. Talked about technical pronunciation and isolation versus learning pronunciation
mm-hmm,
by shadowing. Talked about tongue
mm-hmm.
twisters, making pronunciation fun. Talked a little bit about your history, teenagers. Maybe in a future podcast we can talk about teaching
Yeah,
adults and children as
teenagers.
well.
Yeah.
Like teaching children was something that I also started doing using the early learning approach. So it was a really
Mm-hmm.
interesting experience. We talked also about making students interested in practicing. And you talked about using sertanejo to make classes fun and how you make classes fun. Adapting to specific students' needs. Right. We also talked a little bit about that regarding a student and approaching the I should know culture, right?
Mm,
Here in inside the classroom. I feel like maybe here in Brazil, I guess other places too, but from what I understand here in Brazil, it's really common for people to have this. No, I should know this. I saw this
yeah,
before. It's like you've
exactly.
seen it, but you haven't internalized it. It hasn't become part of the way you communicate. So
Mm-hmm.
don't confuse uh, learn with saying. Right?
Yes, exactly. And of course, there's also the whole um, shaming of you don't know. Like the person doesn't know, everyone will be like, you don't know.
Yeah, that's
No,
pretty
he doesn't
crazy.
know.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
in that
crazy.
case, I also interrupt. No, how is he supposed to know? Like, how does he know? Like, I know. Why do you know? And then I go into the why, just very quick. Why do you know? Oh, I learned it, so you learned it. He didn't learn it yet. So let's not shame people.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right.
Yeah, no,
Where can
totally.
people find you? Tell people where they can find you online, where they can find your teaching, how they can get in touch with you.
Well, you definitely can get in touch with me through my WhatsApp. I am currently just on WhatsApp right now, and my phone number is
No, no, you don't want to say
21.
your phone number on here for sure. Okay, but yeah, you
Yes,
can if you get in touch
usually
with
on
me, you can
WhatsApp.
get in touch with her because she doesn't exist
Absolutely.
online. So
I do
technically, she doesn't
technically.
exist.
I don't exist. I
Technically,
don't exist.
right?
Not online.
Yeah. So when you get your online presence, then people can find you online. But if anybody
Absolutely.
liked what you said so far, they'll have to dig deep to find you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm around, just I'm the old-fashioned around. It's word of mouth rather than the new age technology.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for coming, Katrina. Good hug.
Problemo.
Now see you in the next one. Full reg.
See you next one. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.